Segment 1, the First Great Migration. Before watching the First Great Migration, think about this. What primary factors might influence migrations of people long ago? How do they compare to reasons people might migrate today?
One 125,000 years ago, the world was in the grip of an ice age. North Africa, once grassland, became a vast desert. And struggling to cope with these changing conditions were the humans who lived there. These people were hunter-gatherers. As Africa dried up, they had to travel farther to find food and drinking water. About 80,000 years ago, according to one theory, many of them left Africa entirely. We conclude this from studying the artifacts and human remains found in East Africa. Archaeologists can tell us in astonishing detail how these people lived. They designed tools with care, understood the seasons, and knew when game animals would return from their seasonal migrations. The decision to leave Africa may have been influenced by looking across the Red Sea, where ample rain had watered the inviting green hills of modern-day Yemen. Once outside of Africa, these travelers split up. Some going north and west, some going east and south. They went their separate ways, never to meet again. Some would head for the Middle East and Europe. Others would continue east, beachcombing their way along the coast of the Indian Ocean, looking for warmer, gentle places to stop, eventually reaching Malaysia and even Australia. The descendants of these first migrators would make journeys of their own, thanks to an improving climate. About 50,000 years ago, the ice age that caused humans to leave Africa came to an end. Monsoon rainfall increased in Arabia and India. Rivers swelled and game spread north. Humans followed the Tigris and Euphrates rivers from the Persian Gulf to the Middle Eastern lands along the Mediterranean Sea, tracing an arc that would become known as the Fertile Crescent. These families in the Fertile Crescent established the first successful human colonies there, more than 10,000 years ago. Here they would learn how to grow crops and keep animals. The rivers provided water to irrigate crops. There were plenty of fish and reeds to build houses and boats. Date palms grew in abundance. Later, the descendants of these first families would build stone structures that would become the cities of Mesopotamia in modern Iraq. The first steps had been taken to the great civilizations that would invent writing, develop warfare, and build empires. For the people who migrated into Asia, North and South America were the final frontiers. According to one theory, hunter-gatherers pursuing woolly mammoths into Siberia eventually came upon the Bering Strait, the narrow channel between Asia and North America. This was the last great journey to populate the world. And like all other migrations, it was dictated by climate. 25,000 years ago, the world was moving into another ice age. The seas began to recede, and out of the Bering Strait emerged a land bridge connecting the two continents. This allowed groups to migrate to North and South America. Around 10,000 years ago, humans had traveled to every corner of the globe, the most incredible and important journey we have ever made.
Now that you've seen the first Great Migration, talk about this. How did the climate influence early migration patterns? How does the climate influence migration today? Segment 2, Petra, Secrets of the Red City. Before watching Petra, Secrets of the Red City, think about this. How might the location of a city be important to its success?
The haunting ruins of Petra lie in the desert of southern Jordan, halfway between the Dead Sea to the north and the ancient Red Sea port of Aqaba to the south. The city is enclosed by sandstone cliffs, and as soon as you enter, you see what makes Petra unique: hundreds of elaborate monuments carved right out of the rose-red canyon walls. These remarkable sculptures are haunted by legend. Petra's most intricately carved tomb, the Khazna, or Pharaoh's treasury, features a great urn that supposedly contained an Egyptian pharaoh's gold. The urn bears the scars of bullets fired by treasure seekers in the vain hope that the gold would come tumbling down. It was once thought that Petra was little more than a cemetery, a place where nomadic tribes came to bury their dead. But now archaeologists have unearthed evidence that this was a lively city. This temple was part of a sacred complex as big as a football field, located next to Petra's main street. Stores lined the main street, along with several other imposing temples and a huge amphitheater. The city was approached from the east through a narrow, high-walled gorge known as the Sick. This mile-long cleft through the mountain would have made Petra difficult for outsiders to attack. But it also served another function, as a channel for ceramic pipes that fed water to the city from rock-cut cisterns, containers that caught rainwater, located on the canyon rim. It was an impressive plumbing system that provided running water to a population that may have reached 30,000 people. But the question remains, who would have chosen to live in this desolate valley? The answer lies in the magnificent rock-cut tombs that now define the city. The tombs are inscribed in the language of an ancient Arab tribe called the Nabateans. The one thing archaeologists can agree on is that Nabateans built Petra sometime during the 4th century BC. At Petra, the Nabateans cornered the market in one of the most valuable commodities in the ancient world, frankincense, the pungent, sweet-smelling gum of this tree, which flourishes in remote foothills of present-day Oman and Saudi Arabia. The burning incense was believed to prevent infection, promote health, and bring joy to the gods. Petra was in a perfect position to control the spice trade. Camel trains began at ports in the southern Arabian Peninsula and trekked across the desert through Petra, heading for Mediterranean outlets at Alexandria and Antioch. In a few generations, an arid gorge became a thriving metropolis, an international crossroads of commerce, architecture, and religion. Like most of the Middle East, Petra was eventually absorbed into the Roman Empire in AD 106. As trade routes changed, the city declined in importance, and ultimately it was devastated by earthquakes. But for more than 5 centuries, the Nabateans had flourished in their arid canyon, forging their own distinctive civilization from the desert sands of Arabia. Their legacy, these haunting ruins, has inspired countless visitors to the place one scholar called the Rose Red City, half as old as time.
Now that you've seen Petra, Secrets of the Red City, talk about this. How do the services and cultural resources of Petra compare to a modern city today? Segment 3, the Mora Elephant Army. Before watching the Mora Elephant Army, think about this. How would the elephant as a weapon of war be compared to the modern tank of today?
What eats hundreds of pounds of food a day, is covered in wrinkles, and was used as a tank during war? For the answer to this riddle, travel back in time to India's Mauryan Empire. Elephants, used as powerful weapons and vehicles, helped warriors conquer enemy armies. The Mauryan Empire lasted from about 325 to 185 BC and included almost all of India and parts of Central Asia. Asoka ruled over this empire with the help of his massive armies. In 261 BC, from his capital city in Pataliputra, Asoka decided to attack the southern city of Kalinga. Little did he know he would fight his last battle. Mauryan warriors took special care of their elephants, bathing them each morning. Elephants have been considered precious resources in India for thousands of years. Under Asoka's reign, any man who caused the death of an elephant was executed. Elephants' thick skin, enormous strength, and calm nature made them valuable animals in battle. They could carry 4 men, 2 shooting arrows from the sides, 1 shooting from behind, and 1 in front to guide the animal. With their massive bodies, the elephants were used to trample and terrorize the enemy. According to folklore, in Kalinga, they could hear the Mauryan warriors long before they appeared, like distant thunder. The Mauryan warriors and elephants far outnumbered the Kalingans, and they were defeated. With its army beaten, Kalinga soon surrendered. Victory was Asoka's. Thousands were killed in the terrible battle, and warriors on both sides mourned their slain comrades. Even the elephants were distressed. According to legend, some elephants stood over dead soldiers, protecting them. Emperor Asoka was stunned by the bloodshed and saddened by the suffering his victory had caused. He vowed never to fight again. Asoka turned to a life of peace and became a follower of Buddhism. His newfound belief in nonviolence led him to make widespread changes. He built monasteries, reduced the harsh laws he once enforced, and regulated how livestock were slain. The Mauryan Empire flourished under Asoka's rule, but collapsed after he died in 232 BC. While no longer used in battle, elephants remain important in India today. Their great strength and ability to move heavy objects make them valuable beasts of burden.
Now that you've seen the Mora elephant army, talk about this. What advantages and disadvantages did elephants give Asoka's army as it fought the war? Segment 4, Spartan Warriors. Before watching Spartan Warriors, think about this. What factors would be important in selecting warriors long ago that would be the same as selecting the modern soldier today? What factors would be different?
Around the 8th century BC, the Peloponnesus region in southern Greece was invaded by soldiers from the north. These invaders established a new city, Sparta, and their neighbors soon came to fear them. Sparta's warriors were so fierce, the city didn't need walls for protection. Other nations wanted Peloponnesus, a fertile valley sheltered by mountains. The threat of invasion from the Persian Empire and others was constant. Forever under the cloud of war, Sparta was an armed camp. Soldiers were the ruling class. At birth, a boy's strength and health were assessed. Those deemed weak were abandoned in the mountains. Those judged fit were taken from their mothers at age 7 to begin military training. At 20, he was made a soldier and joined a platoon. At 30, he could marry, as long as he remained devoted to affairs of state and the art of war. He could not farm or trade. These jobs were left to the slave class, known as helots, and lesser citizens, called freemen. At 60, a soldier finally retired, and a younger man took his place in the platoon. Sparta's single-minded devotion to war produced an army that could out-drill, out-march, and out-fight anyone. By the 6th century BC, Sparta was the dominant city in Greece on the strength of its brute force alone. Spartans fought in small, mobile platoons of fewer than 24 men. In battle, a Spartan warrior armored his torso with a bronze breastplate called a cuirass. His shins were also guarded by bronze. Strapped to his chest was an iron sword with a curved blade. A crested bronze helmet that exposed only his eyes protected his head. As an army, the Spartans used a new fighting strategy called a phalanx. Their phalanx was a massive formation of soldiers protected with shields. The right side of each man was protected by the shield of the man to his left. Sparta produced soldiers who could endure any hardship and confront death without fear. The term Spartan became synonymous with self-discipline and self-restraint. But centuries of fighting took their toll on Sparta. Costly wars with Persia, Athens, and Thebes eventually weakened the city. In the 4th century BC, Philip II of Macedon, father to Alexander the Great, conquered the region as part of his campaign to become master of Greece. By the 2nd century BC, Sparta was nothing more than a Roman province.
Now that you've seen Spartan warriors, talk about this. What were the steps to becoming a Spartan soldier? Would you have chosen to be one?